Hello, everybody. Thank you for watching this broadcast. And today we will talk about ecology, fashion, and computers. Though it may not really seem like a very connected areas, we'll show to you how much it is really important and connected. And I'm happy to introduce to you a world-renowned fashion designer from Israel, Danit Pelek. Danit, hello.
Hi, hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Ecology. I would perhaps start just with a little piece of information. In the year 2019, we throw away on the world of 54 million tons of electronic waste, electronic and electric waste. 54 million tons gives you, to give it in a perspective, you know, those huge ships which actually make kind of cruising around. So it would make 350 cruisers, huge cruisers. That is the weight of what we threw away. And that means 125 kilometers length if you just put them one behind the other. So we have to think about ecology in all ways possible.
I agree. Yeah, so definitely recycling electronics is really at the early stage. I'm not familiar with the numbers, so I'm very amazed to hear this incredible number that you just mentioned right now. And I think it's only going to grow if we won't find solutions on how to make this electronic circular and how can we make them, you know, be used again. I can tell you that for my son, I have a 2-year-old toddler, and there is a brand, like American brand, that sells toys that was reproduced from all the equipment for technology. So from old screens, they're recycling screens, they're recycling like other, you know, shields, and then they create trucks out of it, like plastic trucks, and it's written on it, completely recycled from electronics.
That's interesting.
That's the first step. But absolutely, if it's possible to recycle and create other plastics out of it, or creating, you know, and use the electronics itself for
well, it is a problem actually, because we are as a population, we like to play, we like new things, we like you know. So what actually we do, we throw away things which still work perfectly. We throw it for several reasons. Like just recently, my wife has to buy a new smartphone because she can't install the application of her bank on the older one, which is a few years old and works perfectly. So what to do with this thing? You know, that is also very important.
The problems with these things is that most of our technology, or like smartphones and stuff, are designed to be used for only several years. So when you buy a smartphone from the beginning, even though you think, oh, I'm going to use it for the next 10 years, it's not designed to be used for 10 years. The size of the application are always changing, and then the phone become very slow. And, you know, other things that are designed in the milestones of these companies, that like in several years, it's not going to be useful anymore. And then you'll have to go and buy a new one. So your wife's situation, it's not a coincidence. This is how these things are designed to be used.
And that is terrible, actually, you know, because it's just terrible. And it's, you know, I started working with computers in 1974. And what we did then was really amazing. I mean, we even had a 3-dimensional model of one square in Zagreb, and you could put yourself somewhere and look at the model from different, you know, it was not, of course, all the nice things we do with modern graphics, but it was a full model in 3D, which you could regard from different, you know, and we did that on a dual processor 1 megahertz computer with altogether 128 kilobytes of memory and 5 megabyte, you know, like this disk. Now, when I look at modern technology, how is it possible that we can't do anything with it without having newer and newer products? So I think that the same applies to many, many areas, like fashion, for example.
Yeah, fashion, for example, our garments are designed to be used for 7 uses. So when you buy a t-shirt, I'm not talking about, you know, high fashion, handmade, you know, like local designers. I'm talking about the fast fashion, the huge brands that we mostly buy or consume fashion from. These garments are designed to be used for 7 times. So after 7 washes, things are changing. The seams doesn't look the same. The fit is changing, like the fabric itself becoming more thinner, you know, other things that when we buy it from the store, it looks so fantastic. And after a few times, you just say, oh, I don't like this anymore. And you don't know why you don't like them, because they were designed to be used for this many times. And after several of times, they're changing like the shape of it. And then you go and buy a new one and you say, okay, it's only €5. Who cares? I'll buy a new one. Yeah. And that's this whole problem with what happened when you said, okay, only $5 or €5, I can throw it away. I don't have any guilty feelings against it. And then I don't know if if you want to hear where are we standing in terms of this whole ecosystem around producing fashion right now, but it's definitely a huge problem.
Yeah, it's a huge amount of waste. I mean, it's that kind of production which has that they call it the life cycle management, you know, and then do it in many. I didn't know they do it in just production of simple shirts, but you know, they do it in production of all kinds of equipment. And that is absolutely against our planet, and we will not survive the planet will survive. It doesn't really bother it too much, you know, but we won't survive as a civilization, or if we continue like that.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. So regarding that, we started now with fashion. Could you give us a little bit, so we see a kind of perspective through the ages, what was happening? So if you could give us a little bit of introduction into fabric making from old ages on.
Absolutely. So in the last 20 years, we have doubled the number of garments that we produce. Right now, we're producing more than 1 billion fashion items every year. Not talking about accessories, only like pieces of garments, like t-shirts, jeans, you know, pants. And this is like really crazy because of a few reasons. So first of all, let's start with one of the facts. Fashion is the second most polluting industry in the world, and is a major contributor to the global climate impact, obviously. The way we produce our garments are such in an unethical way. In order to produce this 1 billion pieces of garments, we actually have areas all around the world. Recently, they were talking about a specific section in China that these people are literally slaves for the textile industry. Most of the workers in textile factories are women working in these factories day in, day out, literally sometimes for their entire lives, without knowing that there is other, things that they can do, working in such a low salary. So obviously, we're talking about something like $3 per day. This is like the average salary for these people. And of course, these ladies would never be able to afford this €5 garment that we just talked about, because it's a salary for a full day from morning to evening. oftentimes they work in unsafe conditions, no job security. It's like really no one is taking care of these ladies, because the companies they don't want to be connected to the factory itself. So it's like you know, there is no contract with the factory. So it's like really like a cartel in a way, and slaves working for these cartels. Because then when you go and you see, okay, this is how Zala, Inditex produce their garments, and you find that this factory is collapsing and people are dying. So they said, no, we don't have a contract with these guys. It's not related to us, even though they were making the garment for Inditex that day.
There will be so many things will have to change very, very quickly in this world, really. I mean, that's terrible data you are saying.
Yeah, and this is only the beginning. So this is about ethical, the way we produce our garments, but you know, as I mentioned, our clothes are made with tons of toxic chemicals that makes the way into our water sources. So many countries like India, for example, they have a full river dyed in purple because they were creating a purple fabrics, and these toxic colored are going through these water sources and, you know, becoming part of all around us. And as you mentioned, and as we mentioned before, also clothes have become almost disposable. And that's why they're incredibly wasteful. So in the US alone, 15 million tons of clothes are thrown away every year. That's
more than electronic waste.
Exactly. This is,
I mean, just in USA, it's more than electronics waste in the whole world.
Yeah, you mentioned a few millions of tons, right?
54 millions.
54. So this is 15.
15. Okay.
15. Yeah. Only in the US alone, but it's equal to 600,000 containers where these huge containers full of clothing that throwing away every year and end up in landfills, or even worse, being burned. And this is only.
And then we have the other part of the world where people don't have what to wear.
Yeah, that's true. Which is another problem that we won't talk about it today, because these people are drowning into textiles waste, even though they don't have what to wear. Anyways, so huge problem. So we talked about the materials, like the toxic materials that our clothing are made of, the amount of waste that we produce literally every year, and with this we produce more and more fashion items every year. So it's not only like, it's not going to change, like we're going to throw more things because they produce more things. Which is really depressing. And that's why I think we need to change the process from scratch. It's not only changing one thread or changing one factory or changing, it's the whole thing.
Yeah, it's changing actually the whole economy, or the basis of how we can produce and must produce. And
how we consume as well. So it's how we produce and how we consume our fashion or electronics.
Anything. So we will have to have a local economy, as local as possible, because of the transport, which is extremely wasteful. Because of the, now we do a little pieces of everything somewhere. So for producing electronics, you will have enormous amounts of transports just to get it together. Then enormous amount of wasteful packaging material. I mean, packaging material came to be completely, I got once one peanut in a plastic package.
It's crazy.
One peanut.
Yeah.
I mean, what do I do with one peanut?
Of course. It's insane.
But
especially on COVID, we see it more and more with the whole COVID pandemic. We see everything is being covered separately. and it's going to be such a crazy, you know, after we go out of COVID, we'll need to focus on what to do with all this, you know, packaging.
Yeah, many things actually came on the surface during this pandemic. All the problems, or many problems of each of our countries and of the global world together. So we go slowly into the computer age, not slowly really. And the interesting thing is that actually there is a complete difference between the possible economy of matter and the possible economy of information. You know, it's quite simple. People don't realize it so easily. But if you have 3 books and you give to somebody 1 book of those 3 books, you will have 2 books. And now imagine a professor in a classroom and he says something and he doesn't know it anymore. If he has 20 books and gives the books away, he will waste a lot of matter and he will actually have to produce more books. But if he tells people what is in the book, then he knows what is in the book, and people know it. So when you give information, you keep the information, and it's a completely different mathematics. And the economy will have to get into this mathematics. And with computers, quite interestingly, when we now go, we talked about ecology, a little bit about fashion. Now computers are very, very deeply connected with producing fabric. And that is quite interesting. But actually the first modern day digital machines were actually produced by Jacquard in 1804, or introduced, which actually used, how do you call it, those cards with holes to be able to weave specific threads into the weaving. So actually we start computer science, we start almost with modern day computer science. Definitely we start with actually weaving fabrics. And then later we had, of course, Hollerith, which then used that for statistical purposes. And then we know the whole development. And well, now we are at modern computers. We were talking about it. From one side, we do waste a lot of it, but on the other side, we use enormous amounts of computing power. I'm not now talking about the amount of electricity we use to keep that amount of mostly unnecessary burning energy, but it is very important in our following up civilization. And so how can computers help solve ecological problems in fashion and still have all the art which is necessary?
Well, it's an easy answer for me because I do 3D printed fashion. I use 3D printers to achieve creating my textiles, my designs, shoes, accessories, everything I produce is connected to a computer. The only thing I need in order to achieve a physical object as a piece of garment is myself, a computer, and a printer. And so the computering part, or writing the code for the garment to be produced, is completely made by the computer in a way. So I can see the simulation of the garment before I send it to print. I can do all this changing right in front of me. I can email you a t-shirt or a piece of, or a dress for you to print wherever you are. And this is all, you know, digital, this whole concept. So I start with a design in my head, but then the computer is, you know, changing it completely and helping me achieve my, you know, my desired style. And so for me, working on creating fashion is really completely digital process. And yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of thinking. You know, when I met my wife, she was actually painting on a computer. And for me as a computer scientist, it was really quite, you know, you're painting on a computer and you are designing fashion on a computer. Okay, in the meantime, I also started being an artist in light art and also using small computer components to make different possibilities for expression. And it is very interesting when we talk about that. I have a feeling that this new economy could be hard for the artists actually to kind of embrace or to find their way of expression through the computer network. But on the other hand, it could be very, very good for the artists because it's a much wider possibility of doing things.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I have two comments on this. So first of all, for young fashion designer, what's amazing about this technology is that we're moving from physical fashion items that we just mentioned that throwing away every year to digital form. And then, so the same that happens with music, for example. So we used to go to a record shop, buy a record, coming back, listen to it, you know, maybe then.
But I still prefer records.
Yeah. I totally understand why. Like there is a different, you know, it was fun to go to a shop and buy record and, you know, and check the pictures and all of that.
You go slowly through all the records, which one is really the one you want.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like
yeah, treasure hunt. It was really looking for something that you don't know what you're going to find. But then the whole concept of having a physical store, and the whole concept of digital music changed it completely. Now I can just wear these headphones connected to a tiny machine that I can hear all of my records or all of the records of the world, you know, literally on my finger.
But you still miss that feeling, you know, which I like at home, taking a record out and then carefully putting it on a record player. You know, it's a kind of ritual. And then you sit down and you listen to 20 minutes and then you stand up and turn it around because our world is a little bit too, you know, too fast. We forget about the joy of analog things. And one other thing, I don't think in digital electronics, we can do so much as we should do without using analog electronics. And we have now that's a completely different thing. But finally, we are in an analog world, and you also do it by analog means digitizing your moves, which will then be later return to analog processing to get the thing out. So on the ecological side, if you can say something about this.
Yeah, on the ecological side, so what's exciting about that so for example, I live in Israel, in Tel Aviv. Most of my friends from fashion school, they really wanted to open a physical store in one of the streets here that is very famous for young fashion designers. But the rent is like incredibly high. You know, you don't get to all the people, you know, worldwide this way. You have a physical store located in a tiny place in Tel Aviv. And then you know, it's really giving you a lot of limitations. So with digital fashion, you clothes or, you know, just like videos, you can upload a t-shirt to your online shop. And if people like your garment, they can download it from Japan, for example. And just like a video can go viral on YouTube or Facebook, with this technology, a jacket or a t-shirt could become viral too. So immediately you have millions of people downloading your t-shirt that you just designed and really walking the streets in Japan wearing your t-shirt, and immediately you're becoming a famous fashion designer. So that means that in the future, a piece of garment could become viral too. And this is very, very exciting. and this, and not only, there's so many benefits, but just to talk about like the digital side of it, there is no shipping cost to our environment. So it's not only shipping the garment from the company to the customer, it's also shipping it from one side of the world to another. And then, you know, like you just mentioned, it's taking so much effort and energy to the world just to create a piece of electronic, because they need to import all of these parts together and then, you know, assemble it at one place and then ship it to the other side of the world again. So with digital fashion, you know, it's a file, you can ship it. There is no shipping cost, and there is no inventory. So as a young fashion designer, you don't need to create a tons of designs that people might not like and won't buy, and then again it's end up as waste underground. You can just upload tons of designs, and people just download them and pay you for the file itself, for the cut, for the style, for the colors you created, for, you know, so no inventory, which is another huge benefit to our environment, but also for young fashion designers itself. And this technology,
agree. It's also like sculptors and such people which can actually sell their work to people.
That's, what do you mean?
I mean, people who do sculptures, you know, people who do paintings and so on. It's a completely new world we are actually entering into. You know, I remember, well, I'm a Trekkie, what they will say, in Star Trek you have replicators where you can actually replicate a lot of things, and with 3D printing, we call it printing, it's actually plotting, but it doesn't matter. We can actually have now very different materials. I even heard about printers which can print food. And now we were talking about printers which can print, weave materials. Well, that is also another problem still. Although quite quickly, there will be a lot of print shops all around the world with 3D printers, and then later people will get them at home. So that is a big change in our complete economical and ecological life. But there are, of course, some problems with 3D printing regarding the speed of them. So if you can tell us, I know that you are now actually that the development of garments now actually push the development of 3D printing. So if you can tell us a little bit about a project I'm aware you are in, about using high performance computing in printing of garments.
Yes, absolutely. So in my work, I work on different areas in R&Ds around solving this whole idea of 3D printed fashion. How can we make it more sustainable and clean and recyclable after? So it's not only creating materials that can feel good, they must be recycled at the end. So this is one of the limitations are materials, and this is one of the projects I'm trying to solve. But the most exciting project that I'm working on right now is how can we make technology like a printer that will be specific made for textiles uses. So very flat board, really big size, so 1/2 meter and 1/2 meter. That will allow me to print a piece of garment in only 4 pieces. And then it has 4 extruders, I mean 4 heads printing the same time. So when you print a piece of fabric, it's just printing, every part print is on area. And at the end, you have a large piece of fabric, or you have many pieces, then you assemble them and create the garment of your choice. So this project we're making, we call it the Cloudy Factory. We're making it to be so smart that you'll be able to send to print in a local store, like you just mentioned right now, a local printing shop. And you can communicate to the printer using the cloud. And so the printing time for now, we're standing at twice fast than this professional printers available today in the market, and in a few months it's going to be 4 times faster.
Wow.
And you know, once this technology will accelerate so much, and we will improve our development all the time, but once we get to print a t-shirt or a piece of fabric in just a few minutes, and then to be able to recycle this piece of fabric, create new filament, and then print a new piece of garment out of it, then it's going to be so much more like smarter process for us to, you know, to produce our garments. We have a voice finally. We can choose what we want to have and what we want to wear, and we can produce it by ourselves, or we can print it in a local 3D printer shop nearby. So I think it's really important for the local side of it, like local manufacturing, and we totally see it right now with pandemic, every country becoming its own.
Realizing actually that they have to have the economy, the basic economy at home.
True. Not, yeah, at home or nearby, but like really it's such a problem when you need to transfer things right now, like we see it. And there is so much beneficial to the ecosystem in your country to, you know, to keep the producing parts, you know, in-house, we'll call it.
Yeah, and to know where we have what, that's also a problem, you know. We don't really have a kind of inventory of our neighborhood, of our countries, of our world, to know how much what we have where. And that is very, very important. I wanted to step back to that project you were talking about. So it's a kind of scientific project. And can you tell us, please, with whom you cooperate and how it goes?
Yes, absolutely. So it's a full collaboration that we're doing as part of the EU Foundation for the 2020. And I'm going to, I don't know if I should share my screen or not.
Well, as you wish.
But yeah, it's one of the most exciting projects I've been into so far, for sure. So as I mentioned, we call it the cloudy factoring. And it's very like innovative projects that's is been sponsored by the European Union. And it has the goal to optimize production processes using 3D printing. So as I mentioned, we're using this a cloud-based technology that allowing us to model and simulate the data of the final object, and that's why we can communicate it to the factory wherever we are. So the solution is going to be so much more, you know, faster eventually. What else do you want to hear?
Well, the partners are, as I know, the Center for Information and Informatics and Computing of the Ruđer Bošković Institute, and Mikrotvornica, micro factory.
Yes.
From Zagreb, and I don't know if anybody else is. This is a reasonably kind of reasonably small project in the amount of participants, as I know.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm being part of it, based in Tel Aviv, in Israel, and yeah, it's been an international collaboration in this way, and it's working. It's really growing and evolving, and I'm very happy with this project. And absolutely everyone who hears us right now can find my website, dalitpeleg.com, or connect to my newsletter and hear all these new projects coming out and being launched, and learn more about them.
Yeah, well, that was very nice altogether. Talking with you, it was a pleasure, actually. And yes, we will have a big change in our ecology. I sincerely hope so.
Yeah, me too. We have no choice.
We have no choice. You're completely right. Yeah, one more thing I just wanted to mention, because people usually connect 3D printers with very simple materials. Can you tell us a little bit about materials which can be used for fashion or generally? I know that it's possible now to print quite a lot of different materials, including metal.
True.
So if
yes.
you can tell us a
Yeah,
little bit.
today, so the way it works when you want to print an object with 3D printing, most of the time we're using FDM technology, which is the desktop machines. The desktop machines means a small printer that is capable to be used by the everyday user. So it's not like a professional 3D printers. It is a professional, but it's not like industrial 3D printer. So these printers, you feed them with a filament. Filament is like a spool of material that you feed a printer with. And today you can print with so many materials, like glass. You can print glass, you can print with wood, you can print with metal, you can print all kind of plastics, material, and most of them, it's exciting to hear, and not many knows about it. Most of the material, if not like 98%, are made from recycled plastics. So they take these plastics, create little pellets, these little pellets of plastics, and then produce a filament, and then you can print it. And that's why it's recyclable, because you can reuse it again, put this in this huge blender, create new filament, and then print something else. And this is true for printing with glass, printing with wood, printing with metal. You can recycle metal right after, and even clay. You can even print with clay. So this is a very unique materials that you can find and available for the everyday desktop machines that I just mentioned, but no materials for 3D printed fashion, no materials that feels like fabric we know today, like cotton, like silk, like leather. Today, the materials that I'm using are TPU, which is a sort of a rubber. And they feel nice. It's like very like soft and flexible. Also because of the, yeah, you want to touch it, huh? Because of the structure itself, the structure has a flexible structure with the flexible material, and this is allowing me to create soft materials, but it's nothing like cotton, right? So, so today I'm working with the Moon Creative Lab. It's a lab based in Palo Alto in the US, and it's a collaboration between Palo Alto, Tokyo, and Tel Aviv. And we are working to improving the hand of these materials, so it will be easy to send to print a piece of garments that really behave like fabrics. So you'll have the option to choose. So if it's like a summer day, you'll print with cotton, and if it's winter, you'll print with wool, and then you will have it because ready
it's not the same on the hand, and on you know, people have a good feeling in different kinds of materials.
That's true. Yeah. So today, this rubbery material that I just show you, and you can see my designs online, are really cool. They look very nice on the runway. I even wear them sometimes with a piece of lining inside. So it feels very nice, and you can wear it with a pair of jeans and you're going to look very cool. But you know, it's still, and it's comfortable to sit with, but it's nothing like, you know, a piece of cotton. So
we are early in the technology, because sometimes I just remember it is funny. In the 80s, we normally used plotters, you know, which would go with the pen up and down and left and up and down and left and right, and we didn't think in that time that we actually could just do it a 3-dimensional plotter. As most of our 3D printers now work.
Right.
So the first 3D printers were actually, we have one on the institute, Ruđer Bošković Institute, which actually did a kind of layer by layer, and then just glued some kind of like talc, which would be all around so it can build up. And then later we realized that actually we can use an older technology, a plotter, which all modern plotters are now printers actually. but we use a plotter now to plot the things. But it does go more and more towards that replicating machine, as I said, because if you have a possibility to have multiple containers of different types of materials which you can use, then it's yeah. So I think that will change a lot, and we have to think and to get used on completely new ecological behavior and economical behavior. And with that, I would really like to thank you very much for this beautiful conversation. It was a pleasure.
Mine too. Totally a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, thank you very much. And to our viewers, thank you for viewing what we were talking about, and see you next time.